Is Georgia too liberal or is it too conservative? You won't believe where the truth lies. Today I'm sharing with you where to move in Atlanta and its suburbs if you lean left and where to move if you lean right. Be sure to watch until the end of the video where I'll share with you the most conservative zip code in the metro Atlanta area as well as the most liberal zip code in the area as well. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Kelly Allen and I'm a realtor that focuses on the Atlanta area. In today's video, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know about the last few election cycles in Georgia, especially the parts of Georgia that have flipped, and which areas that you should go to depending on which way that you lean. There are over 7 million registered voters in the state of Georgia as of 2021. There are 3 political preferences in Atlanta. Number 1, you've got the Republican right-leaning, and then you've got the liberal left-leaning or Democratic left-leaning, and then you've got the no-lean, and those are kind of in the middle. So per a 2014 Pew Research, which I realize this is 10 years old now, back in 2014, 45% of Metro Atlantans identified as Democrat or left-leaning, 38% identified as Republican or right-leaning, and 17% reported that they had no lean whatsoever. However, a lot has changed in the last 10 years. Atlanta now tends to be in the news when it comes to local, state, and federal elections because the voting has become so close. Oftentimes, major elections are won or lost within just about 5% of the vote. Back in 2016, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump did win the state, beating Hillary Clinton by more than 5%. However, the state flipped to blue in the 2020 presidential election when the Democratic candidate Biden won by a hair, beating President Trump by only half a percentage point. And you may have remembered that that did make the news where the Republican Party or Trump did come back and ask for recounts. So that was enough to win in the state in all 16 electoral votes, which was the best showing of a non-Georgia Democrat, because remember, we have Jimmy Carter. That was the best showing of a non-Georgia Democrat since 1960 when JFK was running. But if you look at a map of voting, you can see, geographically speaking, the majority of the state voted Republican. However, there are more voters in the Democratic, liberal, left-leaning areas of Atlanta, this is inside the city limits and just outside of the city limits, than there are in voters in other parts of the state. And that is why the state went blue. So let's start with the most liberal areas. Atlanta ranks 17th on Yahoo Finance's list of the most liberal cities with populations of 200,000 or more. Atlanta is like most major cities where inside the city limits, you're going to have the most liberal leaning people and voters. From there, the further out you go, the more conservative it does get and the more conservative people vote. So much so that when you zoom out from this map, you can see that the Atlanta area is a small sea of blue and a massive ocean of red. As of the last presidential election, DeKalb County has the highest concentration of Georgia voters that voted left-leaning or Democratic. So they had 83% of their voters vote Democrat. Fulton County was the second most liberal, and that was at 72% of their voters voted Democrat. Clayton County comes in third, and that's 84% of their voters voted Democrat. Now, and if you'll see on this map, you can see DeKalb, Fulton, and Clayton are right here in the center of Atlanta. In fact, Atlanta touches all 3 of those counties. Now, if we zoom out to the metro Atlanta area, because not everyone wants to live in the city of Atlanta, the next 4 most left-leaning counties are, number 1, Clark County, which is really interesting. Clark County is a considerable distance away from city of Atlanta, but it's where the University of Georgia is. You've got a lot of voters there, and they tend to vote more left-leaning. The next most leaning metro county in the Atlanta area is going to be Douglas County, and that was 61% of their voters voted Democrat. Then you have Rockdale County, where 69% of the voters voted left-leaning. And then finally, Henry County, 59% of the voters voted for the Democrat. So if you lean more liberal and you're wondering what towns you should explore and possibly look at to move into, these are the towns for you. Obviously, we have to start with Atlanta. Then Decatur, Stone Mountain, Lithonia, Morrow, Stockbridge, Athens, go Dogs, Douglasville, and Conyers. If living around a concentrated number of Democrats or liberal or left-leaning voters is really important to you, then those are the areas where you are most likely to find those types of similar people to you. While Atlanta is very much a liberal city, you don't have to drive very far out of the city limits to find red, to find that conservative base. So let's explore that now. So it seems like I-285, which is the major interstate that goes really around the city of Atlanta, that seems to be the dividing line between Democrat and Republican. As long as you're going west, north, northwest, or northeast, you are going to run into some pretty conservative areas of Metro Atlanta and the state. So the Metro Atlanta counties that lean the furthest right are Hall County comes in number one with 70% of their voters in the last presidential election voting for Donald Trump, the Republican candidate. The second highest population of Republicans in the Metro Atlanta area is going to be Paulding County, where 63% of their voters voted for Donald Trump. Then you have Cherokee County, which is in the northwest section of Metro Atlanta, and that's going to be 68% of the vote. Finally, you've got Forsyth County, which is northeast of the city, and that county voted 65% for Trump. If your goal is to live around more conservative, like-minded people, more right-leaning people, then these are the towns that you should focus on. Write these down. Gainesville, which is in Hall County. Cumming, which is in Forsyth County. Actually, and we'll go ahead and link to some videos that I've shot about those areas. Dallas, Georgia. Powder Springs, Woodstock, Canton, Holly Springs, Ball Ground. So as I said, not every area is either red or blue, right? Either conservative or liberal. You are going to have some pockets, especially as you stay close to the city but begin to zoom out a bit, where it's really a middle ground. You've got about 50% of the voters who vote Republican and about 50% that vote Democrat. So if living close to the city for commute or anything like that is important to you, and you also, maybe you're a Republican, but you're okay living around Democrats, and the areas that you should really focus on will be in that North Fulton area. You'll find cities like Brookhaven, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, Milton, Roswell. Those are going to be the areas that you really want to focus on if you're looking for that middle of the road area, not too left, not too right. Now, in addition to those just slightly north of the city areas that I just mentioned, there are a few other areas that you could focus on if you are looking for more of that middle of the road. And those three areas are going to be, number one, Cobb County. This is where you're going to find Smyrna, Marietta, in the East Cobb area. They were about 50% Biden in the last election. In the election before that was Trump, Republican. So it's a very closely divided county, but it's the county I live in, and one where we all get along. The second is Gwinnett County, where 58% of those voters voted for Biden in the last election. Those areas are going to be areas like Lawrenceville, Suwanee, Lilburn, and areas like that. So that's going to take you to the northeast part of Metro Atlanta. You're probably going to be about at least 45 minutes from the city, maybe an hour. And finally, if you're looking to move to the east side of Georgia or east side of Metro Atlanta, Newton County, where Covington, Georgia is located, went 54% Biden in the last election. So these three areas, plus that North Fulton area that I mentioned before, those are the areas that if you're really looking to live somewhere where you've got a good mixture of both sides, those are going to be the areas that you want to live in. Okay, so drum roll. The most conservative town in Metro Atlanta, if that's your thing, is going to be the city of Gainesville, Georgia. Now, where is Gainesville? Gainesville is located in Hall County. It's in the northeast section of Metro Atlanta, and one of the things that it's really known for, besides being so conservative, is its access to Lake Lanier. So a few stats about Gainesville real estate. is the median sales price in Gainesville as of April 2024 is $444,000, which is up 7% from the same time last year. Let's swing over to the most liberal town in Atlanta and the metropolitan area. Is going to be Decatur, Georgia. Decatur is just east of the city of Atlanta. I mean, you could be from Decatur, you could be in city of Atlanta in less than 10 minutes. So it is the next biggest town to the east of Atlanta. Now, Decatur is very liberal. Inside the city limits of Decatur, you've got kind of two different real estate worlds happening. You've got one real estate world where you can pick up a home for a median of about $470,000. But if you are going to live as close to the Decatur Square as possible, then you're going to be looking at spending at least $700,000 in that area. You know, there's really not a bad place to live in Metro Atlanta, whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. And even if you want to live in an area that leans more the way you do, I would always encourage you to go explore those other areas, because I promise, and I know this from having lived in Atlanta for as long as I have, people are friendly and inviting and welcoming. So although city of Atlanta might lean more liberal and the rest of Georgia might lean more right, we can all find common ground, and you can find a great place that you feel comfortable and feels like home to you.